Welcome back and Happy New Year. I hope everyone in China is enjoying the New Year celebration and is safe and sound. So today, before we get to the review, I just wanted to talk about what people are talking about. And I think last week, some pictures, a couple people got their hands on some pre-production Blon BL-05s, which looks like this. And it's a bit confusing because the Blon BL-03 Mark II was actually talked about, and I talked about it. It is a retuning of the Blon BL-03. So people are talking about, is this the successor to the 3? Is it this 5? Or is there actually going to be a BL-03 Mark II? So I kind of side with the people who think there's going to be both. And it just so happens that the pictures of the 05 surfaced, but the 03 Mark II should actually be in production, whereas this is in pre-production. So that is my thought. And so this morning there was a comment on Bad Guy's video on the 05 from this guy. He is QI unknown, and so he has a couple kind of summarized all the rumors that I've been reading about. So the 05 is going to come with all the 03 accessories, which wasn't too exciting. About $30 US dollars, but buying it in the US is, I think, going to be a bit more than $30, but we'll see what it shows up on AliExpress at. So more importantly, the one that I think has been talked about for a while is the driver units include a dynamic driver and a 7-layer piezoelectric unit. And he says most probably the one found in the BQEYS Spring 1. And that's kind of, I think that's a big rumor. That was the first time I saw that. I knew there was going to be a piezoelectric in there, but I never saw someone say it was probably going to be that one from the Spring 1. So we'll have to see. He says it's going to go on sale about March 5th, so we'll see how that goes. So the reason why I think there's going to be two is that the 05 is definitely different hardware than the 03. And the 03 Mark II, there was never a rumor that they were going to change the hardware. They were going to simply adjust the nozzle size, tweak the bass a little bit so it wasn't so boomy, and probably speed it up a little bit so it's kind of more technically more precise than the 03 original. So that's my take on it. We'll have to see what pans out, but some people seem to think that the 05 is the next 03, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So for the review, I wanted to talk about the KZ S1D, which is the latest KZ wireless, true wireless set. This one was sent to me from the Yinyoo Audio Store on Amazon, and it's going for about $35 there. It's a bit cheaper on AliExpress, or maybe a lot cheaper. I was kind of shocked when I saw that price, but that's what it is, and can't do too much about that. So this is the... So a while back, I had actually bought this is the KZ T1, which was probably even more than, it was more than $35. I think when I bought it, it was probably closer to $40. And this was the KZ beta wireless set that they put out for a little bit and then promptly canceled. But it looked like, traditionally like a KZ set, and it actually sounded kind of similar ish to a kind of the ZSN, but not quite. And it had a horrendous volume problem, which is probably why they stopped making it. So the S1D comes in two flavors. This is the dynamic driver version. It comes in, I think, black and white. So that's the S1D. Then there's a hybrid dynamic driver balanced armature version, which is just called the S1, and that's gray and green, maybe. There's two different colors for the two different sets. And so it's sort of pretty similar to what the T1 looked like. One thing that you don't find in wireless sets on Amazon often are kind of brass nozzle fittings like that. I don't know if I've ever actually tried one where there was actual brass there, actual metal. typically it's kind of a one single shell, and you just throw the ear tip on it, and it's kind of a bit of plastic, and it's usually a ton shorter than that. So these actually can hold a real ear tip from your normal IMs. I think, yeah, so I have kind of a bigger ear tip there just so I can get better sound, because the ones that they include are always the half size version, which are not too good for getting the most sound out of these things. So what do they sound like? They don't actually sound like the T1s. They don't actually sound like KZs at all, which is sort of my biggest surprise. So KZ sound, you know, 9 out of 10 times it's kind of V-shaped. These are not V-shaped. They're not flat, but they are much more imbalanced than any of the KZ IEMs that are kind of around today. It's kind of surprising that they didn't, this is a dynamic driver version. They didn't boost the bass at all. It's actually quite in line, even a bit low. What they did do was actually boost the mids. So the mids and the vocals sit above everything. And it's kind of wild. I mean, I would never guess that KZ would have done that, but they did. You put these on, and the vocals are front and center. No matter how the song was recorded, the vocals are just there in your head, very forward. Some people are definitely going to be angered about that, but that's what they did. And to be honest, it's not that strange for TWS to have that tuning, because it works for music-ish if you're not that critical about it. But for movies and music, or movies and podcasts and games, where a lot of the sound is in that midsection, you don't want to keep dicking around with the volume to hear the dialogue in a movie. Having the vocals or the dialogue in a movie that forward just makes it easier to enjoy these when you're traveling, or, you know, watching a movie on your phone or something like that. So not too shocking. It was a little shocking it came from KZ, but that tuning itself isn't that shocking. Doing the dynamic driver where the bass isn't boosted at all was kind of shocking. And it's not my favorite, because even the ZSN Pros, KZ kind of has that full, you know, the bass is boosted a little bit, and you end up with kind of a full, rich sound. And these definitely are more thinner sounding, I would say. So where they sort of shine, and this is going to be a little odd, but so 90s dance music. So think about that period in time, kind of late 80s, 90s, where the mastering quality was kind of so-so, drum machines and drum samples were kind of so-so, and but if you actually want to go back and hear, because you weren't getting like a huge full booming bass with a sub bass follow, that didn't really happen in the 90s. It was kind of a thinner drum. The 808 was kind of a thinner drum sound, and so you take that thinner sound and put it on these guys, and it's like, that's, you know, pretty much what pairs with this really well. So Kanye West's 808 and Heartbreaks, right? That was a good whole 808 CD. That kind of sounds good. You guys from the early 90s, will.i.am and Britney Spears did a little song called Scream and Shout. So listen to the range on that song, and that's exactly what happens here. Their vocals are kind of super close, very present, exactly what this thing sounds like. And all the percussion and all the instruments are kind of in a narrow band right in that midsection, and that's kind of exactly where this, so yeah, these are the Scream and Shout pair by will.i.am and Britney Spears. So if you haven't listened to that song in 10 years, check it out, because it's kind of fun, especially on this guy. Other than that, yeah, there's not too much. They're not, I don't want to say they're not special. They're KZ special, and they're a very nice wireless pair, but they're not going to, people aren't going to drop their other IEM pairs to buy this. It was kind of an odd choice, you know, coming from the T1, which was sort of this special, you know, add some value to it, make a really nice shell, the brass fittings, you know, the whole package was really nice. And then now you're kind of at, we're going to cut some costs, and we're going to do a weird sound signature that isn't reminiscent of other things that we do. So odd choice, but there you go. That's what it is. And I do thank the Yinyoo Audio Store for sending that to me, because it was actually on my list of things to buy. I just never got around to buying it because hardly anyone ever reviewed them, so I assume that they didn't sound all that great. But they don't sound great, but they sound pretty good if you play the right music. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.